On some level, there's like no way to prepare for some of the stuff that happens in the movie, you know, like the mud pit and fighting a bear and stuff like that. Like, there's also kind of no way that you can really get ready for that kind of thing.
Alex Meady, JoBlo.com. Hi, Amber. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So, did you know what you were getting into when you signed up for this project?
No, I was going to say in what capacity, but across the board, the answer is no. I didn't know when I auditioned originally that this was a Predator movie. That came as a surprise. And then even after I had read the script and like pages and pages and pages of action description, still didn't realize like what that would actually feel like to shoot. So, no, lots of surprises.
And there's a lot of physicality in this film, and it's you compare all the different films in the series going back to the very first one. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the jungle doing all of that stuff, and you're doing very similar things here. Was there like a regimen, a training preparation that you had to go through in order to get ready for this?
We had a 4-week training camp that we did in Calgary before we started shooting, which is where we were shooting. And we worked with, you know, all kinds of different weapons. We did archery and spears and knives and the tomahawk, obviously. And then we worked with the stunt team and personal trainers and stuff like that. But also, on some level, there's like no way to prepare for some of the stuff that happened in the movie, you know?
Why do you want to hunt? Because you all think that I can't. I saw a sign in the sky. I'm ready. Maui, Nita.
All right, Alex Meady, JoBlo.com. Nice to meet you.
Hello, nice to meet you, Alex.
So, watching the movie, which is awesome, by the way, and so I'm
Thanks.
like, this guy's awesome. And so I go on IMDb and I'm like, is this seriously the first movie that you've been in? How did you get involved in this project?
Yeah, this is the first movie for me. I was previously a musician, I still am, but I've always wanted to get into acting. So I answered an open casting call about some random show that I got canceled because of COVID. I don't even know if they wanted me for a part on it, but they had me in their file or something, and so I got a random email about, hey, I want you to audition for this part in the movie. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was under the impression it was a small part. Couple Zoom auditions later and a trip to LA. And then I realized, oh crap, this is a Predator movie. And this is the number 2 role. I was like, holy smokes.
And so, being your first experience is a sequel to a beloved franchise. It's unlike any of the other sequels in the series, really unlike any sequel that I can think of. What was it like? I mean, were you a fan of the franchise coming into it?
My experience with the franchise was mostly just with the first one. Like so many other people, I really liked the first one a lot. So anyway, after having gotten the role, I went back and I watched the rest of the movies to kind of dive deep into, what I was getting myself into. So yeah, basically the first one was the extent of my knowledge, but now I'm a super fan.
Awesome. And it's such a physical role, and there's so much that obviously, 300 years in the past, things were very different than they are today. But with all the physicality, what was the preparation like physically to get ready for this role?
But, there was the 4-week boot camp. Myself, Amber, and the boys. We did a lot of bow training. I did a lot of horse riding. For me, they kind of, they were kind of going for that thin 1700s look. So I did a lot of running. And I'm not the biggest fan of running, but it really helped during those fight scenes, man. So lots and lots of running.
Awesome. And the experience, because there's a lot of stuff going around how this is the first major film to be completely dubbed into the Comanche language. What was that experience like, going back and kind of reperforming your role in a different language?
It's an undertaking, but it's the kind of undertaking that I really I personally enjoy. I find language is very interesting, and luckily, we had Guy, one of our Comanche translators, there with me, and he's a good buddy. So that was enjoyable for me, just having somebody there so friendly to make sure that I'm doing justice to every bit of the language. But it was a process, but it was fun.
And the just like the story, it's obviously there's a science fiction element, there's the action element, but there's such a great just survival story. And for the first hour, really, that you're on screen, it feels like just like this historical epic, this just coming of age story, this just great, doesn't even have to be a genre story. Did that did you have any conflicts trying to reconcile that side of the story with the crazy alien action side of it?
No, not at all. I, really think of this, or I think in making it, I was really just thinking about this as like Naru's story and her experience of being, a young woman in 17, 19, and that she wanted to be a hunter, and that this thing was in front of her, and then all of a sudden it led, I think just as she didn't know where it would go, I wasn't thinking about it backwards and stuff like, this is a Predator movie. That I think that, like, Dan obviously had the oversight of everything, and I think it was really easy to just release and trust him in that way, and kind of be able to just focus on what was in front of me each day.
And there's been a larger push in recent years for representation on screen, both in terms of, ethnicity and gender and all of those things. And there's such a realism when you're watching this movie. Was it important for you to really portray this as authentically as possible?
Yes, that is singularly, I think, the most important thing to me. Anytime there is a Native specific role, that impact, I think the impact that can be had, whether things are represented correctly or incorrectly, is huge. And that to me is the most important thing, and the greatest thing that we've accomplished in this movie. Like, of course, I think it's a great Predator film, and it's very exciting, and the action is really cool, but also I'm really proud of the representation element, having Jhane Myers, our producer. She's an enrolled member of the Comanche Nation, and she was there every day making sure that, things were accurate and real, and to get the opportunity to portray Comanche people, who are incredible warriors and hunters. Also, though, as people, especially in a period piece, is something that you so rarely see when you have Native characters portrayed in period pieces.
And when the movie, I watched the English language version. So in watching the film, there's points where you will say things and there's obviously no subtitles, and they're not really needed. You don't need the subtitles in the English language version to know what is being said. But when performing the entire film in a non-English capacity, did that alter the way that you were performing the character when doing it in one language versus the other?
Well, we only dubbed the movie, so we didn't get to shoot the whole thing in Comanche, which I think would have definitely influenced it, but also, the experience of going back and dubbing it, which I'm so excited that we get to do. We're I believe, the first film that is releasing in a native language ever.
Yeah.
Upon release. So that is a huge accomplishment, and going back and the process of dubbing the movie, I would go in for like 4 hours at a time, which when you don't speak Comanche is a long time to be speaking Comanche.
Sure.
And like, it's not my language. I'm familiar with my language, but they're not the same. So going in and kind of like going through, and we worked with Comanche language speakers who their whole, everything they do with their lives is to preserve their language. So going through and going like, okay, because even their sentence structure is different, and the grammar. So going like, okay, how do you say this? And what does that mean? And the emphasis here, and then having to like react the entire movie in a matter of, a week versus, or like, a week culminated versus shooting the whole movie every single day for like 5 months. It was a very jarring experience because it was like had all that time to explore it and then went back and had all these new challenges on top of doing it so compact. So it was very, I feel fortunate to have experienced that, because that feels like a very rare experience.
And I think that looking at all the films that are in the series, obviously everybody knows now that this is the latest chapter in the Predator franchise. Does it feel weird to you that people are now going to be mentioning your name in line with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
This guy?
Yeah, there he is.
Never. And actually gave this to me as a gift. I'm Alan Dutch in the Met, the first day of shooting, and I take him with me to places. So I mean, I think that our characters are while it is like funny to talk about, I think that obviously our characters are very different. You know, I think Dutch is obviously kind of physically huge and muscular and military and all these things, and while Comanche warriors and hunters were also like known for being extremely fierce, obviously the concept of like, oh, how can a girl face the predator is like the big question of the movie. And I think that that's really not none of the Predator movies ever come down to being about brute force.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing with any of them, but especially ours.
Well, it's awesome. You're a total badass in the movie. I loved it. I can't wait for everybody to check it out, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thanks. Since the dawn of film, there's been portrayals of indigenous people on screen in various capacities of how realistic, how stereotypical it's been. There is a realism in this story that it just looks and it feels very authentic. What was the level of preparation that you went into to try and help make this as authentic to that era and to the people as you could?
Well, it was really great having Jhane as the producer on this. She being Comanche herself, that she was there to make sure the regalia is proper, make sure that the tools that they're using is proper, but also even she made like these little packets for us of old Comanche pictures and Comanche artifacts and Comanche stories that we all could kind of look through and familiarize ourselves with. So that was cool for me, just having that extra bit of knowledge and information that I could take with me onto the project to kind of put into Tabe.
And being the number two, and the character there's clearly a male-female dynamic in the story about how everybody looks at these characters and what their role is within their culture, within their tribe, and all of those kinds of things. Did it ever feel to you that playing that male character who is the number two to like the main female character, the role reversal, did that ever feel like it was difficult to portray on screen? I guess is the best question there. In the back of my mind, always I wanted to portray Tabe as a character who was not just another jealous older brother, not just another you can't do this because I say so, but I wanted him to have a heart and have a reason behind the things that he did. He wants, at the end of the day, Tabe, he's tough, he's a warrior, he's strong, but he's kind and he cares about his family and he wants her to succeed. But he's also kind of Papa Bear in a sense. He doesn't want her to get hurt. He doesn't want to lose her. Obviously their dad's not around and he's experienced loss and he doesn't want to experience any more. And I think I'm glad that you said that, because there's often the case, especially in an action film like this, where there's that kind of alpha male mentality, just like you said, and it's not there. I kept waiting for it to kind of turn as, oh, he's going to be the jerk older brother, but it's not. He's supportive. He admits that he's wrong. He turns it around and says, like, your plan was right, and you kind of get involved that way. It was really nice to kind of see that dynamic. Did you feel that same kind of dynamic with Amber off screen as well?
Yeah, it was cool having all that time together with myself, her, and the boys. We got to hang out a lot. We'd be playing music up in each other's rooms, us, all of us together. And so we really got to kind of get a comfort level. And even, man, just towards the end, we did a couple of reshoots in LA and Santa Clarita just to, add a couple of things. And by that time, you're just so kind of comfortable with each other and know each other's quirks that it just kind of meshes. And I was just thankful that we had that chemistry.
It knows how to hunt. I know how to survive.
Alex Mady, JoBlo.com. Hi, Dan. Hi, Jhane. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Hey man, nice to meet you.
So it took 35 years, but finally you have both succeeded in making the best Predator sequel that we have gotten yet. So congratulations on that.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good because it's unlike anything else in the franchise. Everything's different. The Predator itself is different. I mean, it's bigger, it's meaner than we've ever seen before. Was the goal from the outset to make this unlike any of the other movies in the series?
It was both for it to be unlike any other movie in this series and also a lot like the first movie in this series. We wanted to feel I wanted to have the same ride that one went on. So even like one of the things that made the first movie so incredible is the stages that you see the creature in. That you first are watching this cloaked being, and then you're seeing it in its masked form, and then you're seeing it in another final form, and all those stages filled audiences with surprise in 87. And since then, that surprise has already been spent, and we've just been relishing in the design, iterations of the design that we'd already been accustomed to, and that had been, the images perforating pop culture. So for me, the excitement was to give that feeling to everyone again, and reiterate on the design so that it feels undeniably Predator, but also very new. So its cloaked form has some newness, and the way that it functions in the set pieces is exciting. And the way it looks in its masked form, and then of course it still has another final form. So all of those things were fresh, but it still embraced what was so incredible about the first movie, being a genre mashup movie. Except this time, instead of being an action sci-fi horror thing, this is much more of an adventure suspense sci-fi horror thing.
And what I loved about it is that if you were to cut the Predator out entirely, it's still got this great, authentic coming of age story. There's a great feel to the entire growing up arc that we have here. And I think that what's really nice is that I've seen so many movies that over the years, whether it's Caucasian, it's European, it's indigenous peoples, whoever it might be, everybody's the same. But what I really like is in this story is that you don't have the mean older brother that says you can't do it. You don't have the people in the community that are saying, well, you're just a girl, so you can't do it. You have a character who wants to do something, faces the adversity, and then just does it. So it feels authentic. It doesn't feel like 1719. It feels like this could take place at any time. But at the same time, we don't hit any of those cliches that you see of, well, they're Native Americans, they're indigenous people, they're going to do it this way or that way. So Jhane, was the authenticity to this story paramount in making this happen?
Oh, absolutely. But it wasn't just to happen on screen, but it was to happen throughout the whole production. So I felt like, because I have like a huge creative side that I don't always get to use when I'm being a producer, because sometimes I'm brought in for something special or doing this or doing that. This time it was kind of just like wide open. So for me, it was amazing. I was able to, I'm also a fine artist, so I was able to use my traditional art skills in teaching, wardrobe and costuming. This is how, you would make this. These are the colors you would use, even to developing the paint, and the face paint of all the characters, where it kind of just was part of their character. It wasn't just all of a sudden someone's just throwing paint on them. No, it's kind of developed on who they are, their personalities, etc. So for me, it was amazing. And then also being a producer, it allowed us to put people into Native people into different positions, as interns in all of the departments. And we even had a guy in grip, and like on one of the downtimes, they had the grip Olympics, and the native guy won. He carried the most sandbags, the furthest without dropping them. So, you know, we had, it was just great, because never have I ever, and I don't know if I ever will again, work on a project that really sets that bar for representation and authenticity so high.
And what's very cool about it is that the world of comic books has allowed these kinds of characters to tell these fantastical stories that are outside of what you would normally see on the big screen. But now we're seeing something that I think I've only ever seen this kind of story done in pages of comic. With now this being as good as it is, and I hope everybody loves it as much as I did, is this now opening the potential for the Predator to appear in different periods in history with different cultures? Is that kind of, you know, I keep thinking like the Assassin's Creed approach, where it's now it's, you know, 1492, or now it's, you know, 400 BC. Is that something that you were thinking about, or would the next one be something just completely different than what this was?
I think both approaches are valid, and it's too early to say right now exactly what we would do next. But you're right to point out that this is what's so exciting about this. One of the things that I loved about making 10 Cloverfield Lane was that it was very much a like, wouldn't it be crazy if the movie was this way, and then right at the end it became, you know, it's like, it's got that, wouldn't it be crazy if, and those are the kinds of things that we often get in fan fiction and in comic books or in the novellas that support the movie lore. And so this very much represents like, no, what if we did that in a movie? What if we did that thing, that the kind of story that usually would just get to be told in the comic book? What if we do that as a movie? And I think there's lots of takes like that for this that aren't necessarily time period oriented, that are really bold swings. But it's a very astute point.
Well, it's a great movie. I loved it. I hope everybody checks it out when it premieres. And I will guarantee you my prediction, 1 year from now at Comic-Con, you're going to see a lot of cosplay as these characters. It's going to be huge. So congratulations to both of you. Thank you so much for your time.
You.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.